Well, some people I don't like, probably just because they're easily unlikable. But there are probably also people I don't care for very much, just because we just don't see eye to eye, and that's fine. I would like people see differently than me. That's fine. That's good. They want to run businesses differently than me. No problem. Do your thing.
Hello, WordPress people. Welcome back to the WPMRR WordPress podcast. I'm Chrissy.
And we're Joe and Mo.
And you're listening to the WordPress Business Podcast. What's going on, Joe and Mo?
We are good. Yeah, okay. We're doing video now, so if people want to see Mo and what he looks like, you can watch us on the YouTube channel. He's like 7.5 months now, so he's getting big. He's as you can see, looks a little bit like his dad, which everyone seems to think is true. I can't really argue with them. But yeah, we're good. Sterling and I are at Lake of the Woods, which is about a 2-hour drive outside of DC. We're doing a lake house with my parents and my sister this week. So we're kind of combining germ pods and all taking it easy at the lake house this week. So it's been good. I've been doing some work, hanging out with Mo, hanging out with family, and yeah, continuing to get some work done, but also, relaxing. And I'm definitely not working like 8 hours a day. It's 3 hours or 4 hours, and answering emails and being on Slack and helping the team out and stuff. But whoa, he wants to be on the podcast too. But it's been good.
That's so good. That sounds so relaxing.
Yes,
Especially needed right now.
definitely. It's like a nice mental health break. I think it's with not being able to do much travel these days. It's nice even to do a little trip out somewhere. So I'm feeling good that outside of my usual element of like just kind of being home in DC, and it can get a little monotonous, especially like being stuck at home. So it's nice to break that cycle a little bit. And yeah, I got a nice lake out here, so I'm doing some swimming, and Mo's doing some swimming, and yeah, it's been good.
Can you swim,
He's
Mo?
taken some classes, and he took a swim class, which was fun. He enjoys the water, and he's swimming, but it's just mostly just like throwing him in the water and see what happens. It's pretty cute though.
That's adorable.
Yeah, what is new with you?
Oh, nothing much. I am not out by the lake. I am here in my walk-in closet. But I'm actually really excited about this, right? I set up a bunch of equipment and lights and things like that in here for some content that we're recording at Nexcess, some video content, other content. So now I have at least V1 of my little recording, streaming setup going,
Yeah,
which
looks
feels really
good.
great. Yeah, I feel really good about it.
You got a nice
Um,
background, and it looks like a new microphone, which looks pretty solid.
yeah. So I mentioned that I got this new microphone a while ago actually. But now have it sort of mounted and set up in a permanent space.
Yeah,
You know. So that feels really good. I'm super excited about that. And yeah, hopefully I sound good. Hopefully this microphone helps my voice sound less like this and a little bit more radio.
yeah. There you go. I'm just on the AirPods this week, so sorry, folks. Not quite as good audio quality as when I'm home, but I'll have to do mobile.
Oh well, I think we all forgive it for the
Yeah.
baby cam.
Woo, baby
Woo!
cam. Yeah, you trade a little audio quality for some video quality.
Exactly. Yeah, but yeah, that's me. I'm actually working on a ton of content for work. So it very much feels like that is the
Cool.
anchor of my life this week. Because content's hard, and it's so funny saying that, being podcasters, but I really struggle with it, especially in the way that I'm doing it this week, where I'm writing a handful of articles for multiple Nexus properties. I'm making videos for
Cool.
the e-commerce masterclass we're rolling out. I'm recording a couple podcasts. I did one live stream. So just sort of very content heavy kind of week. And
Mm,
it takes so much out of you because it's like a performance, right?
totally.
Whereas the work of mine that is more product management, right? Like managing my partnerships, managing my vendors, talking to customers, calling customers, is a lot more task based and almost like a laundry list rather than a show. And I
Yeah.
think it uses a different part of my capacities. So a lot of my week has been about shifting mindset and right getting ready to crank out some ideas from brain to paper. So
Yeah, cool. Are you doing content around um is it like content around like Nexcess features rolling out and like, or is it more like market like I don't know. Yeah. Is like that the focus of the content?
yeah, so there's a handful of Nexus features rolling out that I'm working on content for. We are going through an organization of sort of the sales and marketing organization. So we want to make sure that when this new structure goes live, that the first thing they do is go through a product retraining. So working on a
Mm,
whole bunch of that kind of stuff kind of fell on me, right? My team divides work and sort of like different projects, different assigned to different people. And that tends to be something that I love and I'm very good at, right? Is sort of being the face of getting everybody to rah rah behind a certain situation. But it does mean, like I said, it's just a different mindset, right? It's
yeah,
front lines work as opposed to behind the scenes,
totally.
sneaky product manager work. And so yeah, we're also doing, like I said, that e-commerce masterclass that's being spearheaded by Mendel Curlin, who's on my team. So yeah, we're just creating a ton of content right now, um, and it very much feels like a sort of sprint.
Yeah, I totally get that. I get the like feeling the zapping of energy because you feel like you're always on, you're always in front of your audience. You kind of always have to be on. I'm doing a webinar for GoDaddy this afternoon on like a lot of the tools we use. So I'm like doing this podcast today and getting ready for that. So I'm feeling also like, okay, it's going to be like a performance heavy day. But we're similarly doing a lot of like content right now. We got the new YouTube channel with a bunch of tutorials going out. We're starting, we haven't really decided what it's going to be called, but it's like weekly roundtable or like meetup. It's kind of like webinar ish, but also kind of like WordPress community hangout esque. So throwing a lot of that out there. We continue to push forward on like written content. We're doing a lot more ebooks, and so I we're kind of in that same boat, and it's a lot. It's like a lot to manage, and it's a lot to like do well at scale. I'm sure at Nexcess it's like a whole nother level of stuff, but yeah, I get where you're coming from with that, feeling like you're always woo, always on.
Yeah, I've definitely had that feeling
Yeah,
this week. Right,
I'll
it's
take it
definitely
breezy.
been.
Take it breezy. Don't take some breaks. Take some deep breaths.
Mo's shaking his head. Mo's like, "Do not take breaks.
No breaks. We don't need
No
no breaks.
breaks."
No
He's
stinking breaks.
laughing.
Yes, he's reached this age of being extremely active. So he started to like do a lot of rolling over. It's very vocal. He's starting to eat solids and all everything. So a lot's happening over here, as you can see. Um, cool. All right.
Cool, cool, cool.
So updates done. I'm glad you're doing well. Glad
Well,
Austin is good.
we have Austin. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we can back up for a second. Austin is so great. I mean, I'm sure that it's going to be greater when things are open again and when the world goes back to normal in our lives. But for now, I mean, I can tell you that if I have to choose between living in a 400 square foot studio apartment in downtown DC during a global pandemic where I can't leave, or an 850 square foot one bedroom apartment with a giant recording booth in my walk in closet and a lap pool and then another pool and also a boardwalk trail 10 minutes away. Like, I can tell you which one I would choose. So,
Yeah, I think a lot of people are starting to think like that. I saw an article. I can't remember if it was like it was either like Washington Post or Wall Street Journal or New York Times, uh, but it was talking about like people living in cities being like, why do we live in city? Like, why do we really live in cities? Like the density of human beings. There's a positive to it. Like there's a lot of studies around like the more people who are around, like the more like innovation happens, the
network
more because there's
effects,
just like a bigger footprint, right? But there's
water
also
cooler
obviously
effect.
negatives, like density obviously leads to like bad things happening like during these times. So people are, and including myself, starting to think like DC is great. I love the city, but like, do I really need to live there? Like, can I not live somewhere I can have a little bit more space or a little bit like just different positives than necessarily like the positives I get from living in a city? So I get that, and it sounds like Austin has been a good change for you.
So I know the article you're talking about, and we can talk about that article for a minute right here and do a quick COVID
Sure.
update because I actually thought that article was really silly when it came out.
Okay,
And I
cool. Because
still
I just read
do.
the title
Yeah.
and I didn't actually read the article, but I
Yeah.
thought about it and I was like, oh, that's interesting idea. I don't think differently, but tell me why you read it, so you're a better person to talk to about what was actually in the article. So why do
So
you think it was silly?
yeah, so the essentially what you said was what was in the article, right? It was just sort of questioning the way that COVID was going to change our perspective on where we should live and how. And the thing is, I know exactly why I like living in large, dense urban areas. And I still do. And it's everything that you said. It's the proximity to other people, it's the network effects, the water cooler effects, the innovation, the many things that are to do, the diversity. I very much enjoy a small studio where the outside street is my living room, where that's where I go to experience life and to be with people I love and whatever, right? And then I go back inside and I retreat to my small space and and I see that, and that's something that I really appreciate and love about places like DC. I lived in New York for a few years, right?
Totally.
um, for me, this move to Austin makes sense because that kind of life isn't coming back anytime soon.
Mm.
And that's an important distinction, I think, because when I read the article, I was like, well, this is silly, right? Because this pandemic thing will blow over in 3 months once we get it under control, and then I'll go back to my life. And no, I'm not moving away from the city just because I can with my remote job, right? But 6 months later, right, that perspective really changed simply because um, we don't know that that's going to come back soon. We're looking at 12 additional
Yeah.
months, 18 additional months,
Yeah,
and
people are starting to say like vaccine in like fall of 2021. It's like, and then it has to roll out, and so it's like, well, it could be the new, really, it'd be the new normal for the next few years, realistically, right?
exactly. And so effectively what has happened to my physical space is I've realized that I need an external place to go that isn't the outside. And that's almost how my apartment is like structured. Like it's like there is like a divider between sort of like the living room and kitchen areas and the like more inner like the closet where I am right now and the
Mm-hmm.
bedroom, right?
Yeah,
And so and then there's like I now live in a building with amenities, right? So there's like the building amenities that are sort of like an additional external space that continues to be self-contained and a little bit more safe than, being out at a bar during a little pandemic or something. Um, so yeah, that's the COVID update. I think that our opinions are quickly changing. I did the Twerk Social Hour last night, so it's fresh on my mind, and we were talking a lot about just the way that work camps are going to look different over the next year.
totally.
The way
And that's
that
another reason we're doing a lot more virtual content and like virtual meetups and happy hours, which is, sounds like you too. I think a lot of people are pushing into doing more digital meetups because it's the new norm. Like there's some long-term strategy behind that, right? It's not like I just want to do virtual. Maybe we do, but also it's like, well, we may not have WordPress like real WordCamps until like 2022. So,
exactly. Oh, here's a controversial question.
ooh,
I saw
yeah.
this on Twitter last night at like 1 in the morning. Okay, so Matt Cromwell tweeted out controversial opinion: the ratio of people making webinars to wanting to attend webinars is probably 10 to 1. Agree or disagree?
Say the ratio again, because I want to make sure I understand which ratio is which person.
There are a lot more people making webinars than people who want to attend webinars.
Uh,
Let me not butcher his words. Let me look up the exact tweet so that
That's okay. I understand the concept. So what Matt's kind of saying is like everyone's doing webinar or online stuff, and like it's kind of like we're all attending each other's things, but like everyone wants to throw an online event, but there aren't as many people out there who maybe are like the attendee types. Like that ratio is getting closer to 1 to 1, I guess. Well, I
that
guess
was
it's at 10 to
exactly
1,
his
but
point. Yeah.
okay.
Here, let me read you the exact tweet. So
Yes,
he
let's get it
says,
exact verbatim.
Matt Cromwell at Learn with Matt C tweeted out, controversial opinion, maybe. The ratio of those who want to host a webinar to those who are eager to attend one is roughly 10 to 1. If virtual conferences are our future, it's time to rethink virtual conferences already. Thoughts?
Hmm. I always agree that it's time to rethink things. I agree with that second part, definitely. I mean, it's always important to like, because look, there are a lot of people that throw on virtual conferences and like really just use it as like a marketing strategy. It's just like collect email addresses, right? Like, let's just like be realistic about that. That's actually why I was kind of hesitant to start the WPMRR virtual summit, because I was like, I want to do this really well. Whoa. I want to do this really well. I don't want it to feel like a kind of marketing conference. It's why Brian Richards is like helping and running this conference with us, because I wanted it to be like WooSex and WordSex, like a solid conference. Um, so there was a part of me that was feeling like that. But we're working really hard to make it a really unique, like valuable virtual conference. And we're always thinking of like more unique things we can do and ways we can not just be like every other online conference out there. So that's like really active in our minds. It's one of our like biggest values that we put together before we put this conference together. So I agree with Matt for sure on that. I think I feel like the first part of what Matt is saying is, I think he's right in the fact. So I agree and I kind of disagree. I agree because I think that there's more people throwing virtual events than ever. There's a lot of noise out there. There's just a lot out there, right? So I think to him, it feels like that's the case, like that there are a lot of people throwing webinars, which there are. But the WordPress space is just so big. There's always going to be new people coming into WordPress as like the market share grows. Like the market share is going so fast. There's always going to be new people coming in with every like 0.1%. It's like tens of thousands of new freelancers coming in, right? It like theoretically, that's how my mind calculates it. Not maybe that's not exact numbers, but that's how the math works, right? As everything grows, as the market share grows, more people need to come into like WordPress professional area. That's how economics works, I think. So I think what Matt's perspective is from someone who's really embedded in the WordPress community, like us. Of course, we see every single event that comes out, so it feels like there's so much coming out. But I think there's a ton of room for more, actually, with so many people. There's just the WordPress community is so big, but also so small. Like there are a lot of people who do WordPress that aren't part of the WordPress community, and people are always discovering it, I think. So I think there's room for more. So I see. So what I'm saying is I agree with Matt. I kind of disagree, but I think he's overall right, because I think as we move into like every conference being virtual, there's going to be so much overlap and so much of the same stuff going on, that we really need to think about like how do we do an online conference different, and how do we like stand out from the crowd, right? Because that's being unique is so important. And if everyone's just throwing the same event, then it's kind of like worthless to everybody. I mean, not worthless, but it doesn't add value from a conference someone threw a month ago, right? So that's why monthly recurring revenue, like MRR, subscription based like lessons and talks, like that's what we want to do, right? Like Jan is doing agency summit, like specifically to help agencies scale. Like, so I think like picking a good niche is good. Yeah, I just talked for a long time, but I think that Matt, you're pretty spot on. You're also just so WordPressy. You're probably seeing a ton of WordPress stuff come up because you probably see every single WordPress thing that comes out, and a lot of WordPress people out there. So I think it's all good. I don't know. What do you think?
That's a super interesting perspective, and I think that, you know, the thing about me that I want everyone in the world to understand is all of my strong opinions are held loosely. Like, I'm like very passionate about this thing, but like, I don't know, might be wrong. I don't know. About just absolutely everything. And I think that when I read Matt's tweet, it stood out to me because I was like, oh my God, yes, I totally feel like that's true. But just now you presented this idea that, yeah, I feel like that's true because I'm plugged into the ecosystem. I'm seeing every
Totally.
single webinar that every single person is doing. So, of course, I feel like there's too many, right?
Yeah.
But their Nexcess marketing team is doing a ton of webinars, and I've just been like, oh, why are we doing so many webinars, right? Like, even though
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
doing one of
so
them.
totally.
But you're right. Yeah, the Nexus audience probably only has maybe about, well, definitely not as many companies as I do in my face throwing webinars, right? Like they
Yeah.
maybe interact with like 3 to 4, 5 vendors that do website related stuff, and so to them they're not being bombarded by everybody's webinar. So the Nexus webinar probably provides value. I hadn't considered that point of view, of getting out of my own head of being acutely aware of the ecosystem, and I think that's a really good point.
Totally. I totally agree with that. Um, yeah. Webinar is one of those. We used to do a lot of webinars, and we kind of stopped doing them. They weren't having a ton of marketing value for us. We also like weren't very. We didn't throw them in a way that was like efficient for the marketing we were doing. So it was kind of hit or miss on those. But we have Allie on our team now, so I think she'd be very good. She'll be very good at organizing and doing all that. Um, yeah, I think there's also gives us a lot of space to be able to like team up. Honestly, it's like, oh, you do webinars, like we do a podcast. Like, hey, I can come onto your webinar to like talk about, I don't know, like security or maintenance, and like you can hop on the podcast and like we can put each other in front of each other's audiences, and maybe gets good visibility for each of us. Maybe it throws, a couple customers each of our way. Like, I think I was just talking with the someone from Weeglot, and we were talking about as a WordPress ecosystem like matures, like companies need to do better around like being premium and like charging more money and like growing up from a financial standpoint, which we've talked about a lot on the podcast. But I think that like part of that is like, okay, how do we like get in front of more people? How do we like increase our audience? And I think that there's a lot of good work we can do. We don't have to sacrifice just like marketing and like just growing our audience for growing our audience's sake, just to like put low quality content in front of people. Like we can do both. Uh, but I think to Matt's point, for Matt's tweet, that's super important for us to continue to think forwardly, not just do the same old thing. Like I think when we were doing webinars, we were just doing webinars to like for like lead generation, and like that's why it didn't really work for us, because it was like we didn't have like a unique value proposition for our webinars. Like it didn't seem like we were honestly adding enough value, so we stopped doing them, and we're gonna pick them back up in a more community oriented way. And I think that'll be that we have a lot more direction in terms of like where we want to go with it, and I think that'll make all the difference. So yeah, to Matt's point, I think with everything we do, we should probably be thinking about, man, how do we make this really good? Like, how do we?
That's what I was about to say. Like, I
Yeah,
don't think I don't think that rule is strictly about webinars. I think it's about everything, right? And that's because I'm someone who I'm aggressively selective with my attention, especially these days. Like, I cannot be exposed to all the content that's out there. I would be
so much.
exhausted.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so for me, I'm just very, very, very gung ho on high quality content. And so podcasts, or excuse me, webinars, but also podcasts, blogs. I don't read anybody's blog, right? And that's not because I don't care.
yeah,
I
totally.
very much care. But there really has to be a kind of quality level and effort that goes beyond, oh, we're just doing this to check a box, for it to really capture my attention, because there is so much noise and so much content out there across every single industry that it really needs to be something that nobody else is doing, or it just does not even stick in my brain. And You know,
Yeah. This is honestly, didn't plan to really talk about this today, but I thought this was like really cool. You're on Twitter a lot. I'm on like a little bit, but when you see tweets, we should talk about that on the podcast. This is a fun like section, like talk about this person's tweet. So I thought that was really cool. I think like one last thing I'll say before we get into like whatever the second main topic of today's discussion is I think that people are to be able to um, start like doing marketing stuff. Everyone wants to put out like super high quality content, of course, but there, you have to start somewhere. And if starting by doing something good and not great means you started, I think that that's okay. Um, so I don't want to stop anybody from like putting something out in the world that maybe is not the best thing that they have ever done. It's okay. Like we always improve and get better. Um, and but like once you're at the scale of a WP Buffs and like definitely at the scale of like a liquid web like Nexcess, like expectations will be higher, and that's why we're going through a lot of content revamps right now and like making old content that wasn't that great like way better. And so I think there's room to be able to improve, but I don't want people to feel like just because something's not great doesn't mean they shouldn't put it out there in the world. Make it good and put it out.
I definitely think that it's a balance between the volume game and the quality game, right?
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, you have to have blog posts that try and rank for search terms, right? Like that's never
yeah,
going away. But we are in a continually noisier and noisier internet, and so how do you stand out in a way that makes sense, right? It's actually funny. We can totally incorporate a Christie reads you tweets section into WPMRR,
yeah.
but I have opinions about that in regards to my own Twitter. I mean, people will laugh at me when I say something, something, something. Oh, my work Twitter. They're like, "You're what?"
Yeah.
Because my Twitter, I think, upon first glance, is very personal, right?
Mhm.
But to me, that's actually by design. Just about the past 3 years of my career have been driven by Twitter.
Mhm.
Connecting with people from conferences on Twitter, offered opportunities, jobs, contracts through Twitter DMs. Um, and that's because my Twitter is a work Twitter. But that doesn't mean that I, schedule 2 weeks of helpful blog posts and content via Buffer. It means that I present my genuine opinion. I share things that I genuinely
Mhm.
care about. And I'm kind of myself, right? And I'm kind of like a kooky person. And so I
It's
let
exactly how
myself
I describe you to people. She's just so kooky.
and I let myself be authentic on Twitter, and share, both the good and the bad, and it works, right? And I think, hopefully stands out above noise, um, and
Totally.
filters through opportunities for me. And I think that's what your content, your podcast, your webinars, your virtual conferences, your blog posts should all be doing. They should be hitting that point of being unique, of bringing in opportunities that are right for you,
Mm,
and of standing out in a noisy marketplace. So,
absolutely. I don't think anybody could look at your Twitter and think it was not authentic. It's one of the most authentic things online, I think. Yeah, I feel like you what you see is what you get. Like when I talk to you, I'm like, well, it's the same as Twitter. Like you're not hiding anything. It's like you are there. So yeah,
the one thing that I've gotten in regards to that is like, oh yeah, it's the same person as on Twitter. And I got this a lot at WordCamp Europe, which was really funny. But you're a lot shorter than I thought.
you look so tall on video.
You look so
Hmm.
tall on video, and you have such tall energy on Twitter. You're a lot
Ah,
shorter than I thought
tall
you
energy.
would
Yeah,
be.
yeah, nice. That's true. Are you sure you're not 6'6"? Because you should be dunking in the WNBA. I'm pretty sure. Oh, you're 5 foot.
I'm
I don't know,
I'm a very short person. Yeah, I'm 5 feet tall. Yeah.
5 feet, straight five. Um, that's interesting. I used to teach with someone who was like actually like 5 feet tall, and she would was a high school teacher, but she would go up to the big like 6 foot for like 300-pound football players, and like oh they listened to her like because she had I don't want to like tall person energy, but that's nothing against short people. I just mean like she had big energy for like a small
Yeah.
person, and like that's what affects people's like mentality towards someone. It's like not just their physical stature, but like their emotional and intellectual stature is like that's a really important thing. So yeah, you've got WNBA dunk on him energy. I'm pretty sure.
All
All right,
right, you ready to move on
should
to
we
the
should we dive into the I don't know second piece?
yes, yes,
Yeah, we're on about
absolutely.
30 minutes, so we may have I don't know 25 or 30 more minutes left. But okay, second thing we wanted to chat about today was it's kind of like dealing with haters section or dealing with like negative feedback.
Tell us what
And
kicked it off.
well, what kicked it off is I had I had this experience. When was it? It was like last week sometime. What is today? Today is the 30th, so it was like yeah, late July. Um, and I was just working, and I got a DM on Slack from someone. I think it was in post status or making WordPress, and it was a screenshot of a post from a Facebook group that I'm not going to name here on the podcast, but it was a Facebook group of like a pretty well known like other WordPress podcast and community. So someone posted in this group a screenshot of an email that we had sent. It's part of our like sequence emails. Um, and the person said, if you're ever unsure if you've used too many emojis in your email, just compare it to this one, which I find unreadable personally. And okay, I want to talk about this in a way that makes sense because I did not prep a lot of what I was going to talk about before. But let me be so when it was posted, the email does have a good amount of emojis in it. It's got like 10 emojis in it. So it does have a lot of emojis in it. It had our company name in it. It didn't name our company name in the post, but it had it in the screenshot. So it's a screenshot of our email with a ton of emojis in it. And honestly, the post is not that bad. Like the post itself is not the issue, was not the issue to me when I saw it. The issue is all the comments underneath. Because this is a community, this is like a Facebook group of like 3,000 people. And this is kind of why I'm like, I don't use Facebook very much. I made a big long comment on it when I saw the replies to it. I made a big long comment. Well, okay, what happened was it got posted. I got the screenshot sent to me. I was told where it was. I applied to be part of that group. I had to like request to join. The person who made the original post accepted me like an hour later and commented my name on the post, so I knew where it was. And then I read through all the stuff, and I was like, I was reading through comments. And to go back to my point I was making, this is why I'm not super active on Facebook, because I feel like it's a pretty toxic environment of like, I felt like the person who posted this was kind of like, it wasn't that bad. Like didn't seem like malicious. It was just kind of like, yeah, there are a lot of emojis in this email, like, haha, like too many. And then when someone sees a post like that, I think Facebook like tricks people's brains into being like, yeah, like pile onto this, like, yeah, like that's exactly. And just like a lot of like, I don't know, not nice or polite comments on it. And yeah, so that's what happened. And like, I mean, I don't know, I could read some of the comments. I don't even feel like I need to read them like verbatim. But like 2 or 3 positive comments, but like 30, like, wow, like this sucks. And yeah, I think that like from my perspective, I was like, like, I know I don't really care at this point. I said in my comments, like, if this was like 2 or 3 years ago, I probably would have cared a lot. because I don't know, I probably like wasn't as mature and I would have taken it personally because it's like my business. So of course I like take that kind of stuff personally. Today, like I don't really give a shit. Like it's okay, like this happened, move on. If I see anybody who commented on this post like at a WordCamp in 2022, I will give you a hug. Like I'm not taking it personally. But I thought that it was kind of like I don't know, it was I didn't like that someone like posted my company without like blurring out my company name and just like putting it out there when I wasn't in the Facebook group to like make a comment on it. I actually would have appreciated if like that person had like reached out to me and like said like I'm posting this to 3,000 people. Also, like it's pretty easy to blur out my name. Like that would have been much more kosher to me. Like you don't need to like call out my company and like do that kind of stuff. So to me, it was kind of like a respect issue. But yeah, I can like read like my direct response to it. I feel like it was like 500 words, so it's kind of long. So I don't know if I necessarily need to do that, but I'd love to hear like what you think about that and like if you've ever experienced something like this happening to you. You know, maybe at Liquid Web and Liquid Web and Nexcess. That's kind of a bigger scale. I'm sure you get haters all the time. You're just at that big of a scale that like someone's always going to be saying something. This wasn't that great, blah blah blah. But like maybe at Caldera where it was like your company. Did you ever like receive like hate stuff like this or just like negative attention? And then like I don't know, how did you deal with it?
I have so many thoughts on this, but first of all, I want to start with I'm so sorry that happened. That is so crappy. And I'm sorry to anyone listening to this, currently thinking to themselves about the one time this happened to you. I am also sorry because it sucks. It's such a crappy feeling. And I think that a lot of it comes down to courage behind a keyboard. Because people who engage in this kind of toxicity, the reality is they would never come up to you in face, in person, with their body in front of you and say, your email's got too many emojis. Ugh. You know? Like, that's 100% a courage behind the keyboard kind of thing. And
Yeah,
that,
and I'm sorry, and to be clear, I actually appreciated the feedback. Like, I I like when I get real feedback because when it's true, when someone's right in front of you, like they don't want to give you negative feedback, right? So you rarely get real negative feedback. So I just want to be clear, like I actually appreciated the feedback. Like I like to know like what people think about my emails, even if it's negative, because it makes me think like, do I want to change it or was it just kind of like a bullshit opinion? I don't know, but it gives me something to think about. So I don't want to make people think that I didn't appreciate the feedback. I said that in my comment, like feedback, great. It's just the way that it was presented and the way that people like think on Facebook. It just turned into this like something that wasn't that bad into like this snowball effect of like negativity.
yeah,
And
the
it's like,
pylon.
well, now I'm thinking about it and like it doesn't bring any positivity to everybody at the end of the day. So yeah, but go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that makes sense though, right? I think, like you said, it wasn't the emojis in the email comment. It was the posting to a public forum with your name on it and 30 people being like, this is stupid, right? And again, that's also just keyboard courage, right? Because that
Keyboard
wouldn't
courage. I like that.
happen in a face-to-face context. And I have never understood the impulse to be mean on the internet, right? This is like the flip side of there's so much content that I'm attentive with that I'm selective with my attention about what I read. It's not that I don't care, but it's that I want high quality content. There is no way. If I can't even get through all the stuff I'm interested in, I can't get through the stuff that I don't like, you know? Like, just move on. And that
Totally.
has always been my approach, but it's not the case for a lot of people. And I've known that negative attention on the internet is part of my DNA at this point.
What,
And
your controversial comments on Twitter? Do you controversial feedback?
so,
What?
funny enough, I think that I have gotten to a point where I have filtered out my feed and the access that other people have to me to a point where I don't
Hmm.
even see the crap, right? But it took me a long time to get there. This kind of stuff used to affect me a lot. And it's because I've been online for kind of a long time, right? Like, um, I've been publishing my things to the internet for even longer than I've been working with WordPress, right? A lot of the time I tell stories about the way that I was publishing my yeah, all good, publishing music to the internet when I was a teenager, the way that I was publishing blog posts and ideas and photos to social media and to sort of original microblogging platforms for a long time. I've
Mm.
been all over everything, right? So you know, I remember watching grown ass men criticizing my music when I was like 14, right? On Yahoo Answers or whatever. Yeah,
No.
yeah, and
Oh
that's
my
just how it goes.
God.
And it's like, look, like
Cringe.
you are out here criticizing a 14-year-old's music on pure volume, and like I hope you find peace, you know?
Yeah. All right.
I hope you find peace,
I
my
don't know if this
dude.
is the way, but I hope
Yeah.
you do. Yeah.
You know? And so I got so used to it so early on, right? And then I definitely think there's a sexism component to it too, right? And I think that's maybe beyond the scope of what we're talking about because we want to talk about how to deal with it.
It's
But
within
I
it.
think
For
that
you, there are people out there who experience things like you do, so for sure,
right,
I think it's within
right.
scope.
I definitely think that there was a component of it to that. I think that's why I've been exposed to it so much more. You know what I mean? But that just means that I've gotten good at it, right? And I've learned to figure out how to roll it off my back. I'm very passionate about not only being selective to where you put your attention, but who gets access to you and why.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
if
So
you
important because we only have so much time and bandwidth. If you try
absolutely
to talk with everybody, it's important to be able to say no, to be able to control your time and your schedule because it's like what you were saying about like controlling that is it's like when I think about like wanting to be physically healthy, like you want to eat healthy food to be physically healthy. It's an exact same thing with mental health and it's physical health, right? Mental health, you do the same thing with content. If you read every piece of crap content out there, like it's a crap mental diet, your brain, that same your brain and body, right? So I totally agree with that. And being very finding strategies and ways to make sure that you are in control of who you talk to and your time is super important. So
right,
I love that idea.
right. And there's a general understanding that people on the internet, I don't know what about the internet makes people say things that they just wouldn't, right? But oh my gosh, I remember being in college and being featured on this bicycle commuting article. And just like all the comments on the article were so mean. And I was just like,
What were they
who, like,
about? What could they
what
have
do you
been
have?
meaning
Like,
about?
it was like
She can't ride a bike.
a lot of them were focusing on like during the photos that the photographer took. I had a bruise on my knee, and that quickly became like a very sexually
The hot
inappropriate
topic.
and um
That's crazy.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't know, right? Like it's like a part of my DNA at this point. And then when I started working on Caldera, and I particularly had lots of exposure within the WordPress niche, I mean, some of the emails that we got were absolutely remarkable. For a little while, the listeners are gonna love this. I had a mail name account on Help Scout to escalate tickets to myself. In the case that I got an email that was like, I want to talk to Josh. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Whatever. Or I want this to be escalated to your manager because whatever. Like
That's
I got that
smart.
email frequently. Frequently. I want this to be escalated to your manager, dear. Lots of dear in the emails, right?
So
Things like
condescending.
that. Yeah, 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 yeah. And just why, right? Because like my name is Christy, right? It's such a cute name. It's not even like a cool like gender neutral name like Alex or something. Like no, it's just Christy, right? And so I came up with strategies to work around it, right? And but some were spectacularly bad. I remember there was this one time that it was like that very similar situation where several people reached out to me privately in DMs with a screenshot and were like, "Don't listen to this person. This is not who you are. You're so much more than this." And I was like, "What is going on at this point?" And I go look. It's like this WordPress.org review. It's still live. I wouldn't know how to find it, but I'm pretty sure it's still out there. And it's just like this 500-word review of like why Caldera Forums is terrible ever since I started working with Josh, and how like now all the company cares about is money, and I'm this like, profiteering useless bitch who this and this and this and that. And it was just like, oh my god. Or maybe it's gone now because it might have gotten taken down for violating community guidelines, right? Like, I think that actually may have happened. Um, I have I one of my favorite people that I have a great relationship with in the WordPress community is Jan.
Hmm.
And Jan is one of the community moderators, and the way that our relationship developed is he realized that I was getting exposed to an unusual
Yeah.
amount of abuse on the
Oh
community
man.
forums, right? And I remember the first time I met him in person after years of interacting online and just monitoring the forums for inappropriate content and fake accounts and things like that. I just like gave this man a huge hug, and I was like, "You're one of my favorite people," you know.
Totally.
And
When someone has your back and stuff like that, it
right,
sticks with you.
yeah. So to go back to the original question, it's in my DNA, and I have come up with a lot of ways, both internal and external, to deal with it, right? Internal, one of the big ones is realizing that people say things on the internet that they wouldn't say in person, and practicing acceptance with that, seeing the way that other things affect the propensity to receive negative feedback. That's why I mentioned the sexism. And then there's also internal ones, right? Leaning upon the help of the people who send us the screenshots and say like, "Hey, don't let this get under your skin." Um, the people like Jan, right, who have your back and make sure that things remain appropriate, above board. Asking for help is really big. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like a bank account. It's very easy for us to fixate on the negative comments, and that's why it's really important to remember all the positive ones you've gotten. So that
Mm,
when you get a negative one, you can lean on the seven
yeah.
positive things you've heard. And, there's always, 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 always a component to where's the truth in this, right? Like, feedback is good. Being called a useless profiteering bitch on the WordPress.org forums, like, maybe is not constructive
Hmm.
feedback. But
Yeah.
even out of that, I can remove myself out of the emotionality of that and think, okay, well, let's make sure that I'm not alienating some of our Caldera Forms free users, because that's not something I want, right? Like, part of the project is to make sure that we're being really helpful to everybody. When we get negative feedback about Nexcess and the platforms, and yes, you're right, we get the all the time. It's just we're just operating at a scale where that's always going to happen. I mean, like, we have a team that deals with it, and I'm not on that team. You know what I mean? But
Wow, a
even
whole team to deal with it. We are at that point now where we get it pretty frequently, also just because of the scale we're at. But I'm looking forward to having a team for that.
it's pretty great. It's pretty great, especially compared to like my previous experiences, right?
Yeah, like
And
reputation management team,
yeah,
kind of like.
exactly. And even when we look at the not so positive feedback, digging through the haystack to see where the opportunity for improvement is, or even the opportunity for messaging improvement or whatever it might be, can be a really helpful exercise. But that's definitely like level 3, right? Like, level 1, I think, is accepting and letting it roll off your back. Because I think what I see a lot is, I see especially newer entrepreneurs, or maybe even like existing entrepreneurs, but people who just like do not have negative attention online embedded into their DNA the way I do, right? Like, is get really upset about it, right? And post about it, and even amplify the negative feedback about themselves through being so upset about it. And that's okay. I think catharsis is really important. And I think at the first round of reaching out to your community and asking for help and support to fill up that bank is super important. But then there's a point at which you have got to let it go, or else all your energy is going to go into that and not into the things you want.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was pretty much like yes to everything you just said. I have a few things I also want to touch on. I did an episode with Jason Coleman from Paid Memberships Pro. It was just like a year ago, so I forget what episode it was. It was like 30 or 40 or something, but it was on about like dealing with haters specifically in like the WordPress forums and like running a plugin company. So that's a good resource for people to like how to deal with like one stars reviews there. That'd be a good resource. I think still has a lot of valuable lessons there. For the feedback stuff you're talking about, I think it's really important to separate like the good feedback from like the bullshit feedback. Like there's feedback like, and you want to create systems in what you're doing to like gather more good feedback. So like, okay, for example, like this new podcast recording software we're using, Riverside, and with all the software we use, honestly, I give a lot of feedback. It's always very respectful and positive, but I give a lot of feedback. Like for them, I was like, it would be cool if you had like a Calendly integration. I use Calendly. Like you should build that. Like that would be cool. Like if other people need it, obviously you can't just build it for me. But like just so you have it added to your feedback log, because I actually want to help them get better. So I think there's like definitely a right way to get feedback and a wrong way, right? And like this, like posting in a Facebook group is like not it's not constructive. Like it doesn't help anybody really. Like that's honestly not helpful to anybody. I don't think. And I think people should be more cognizant online about where they're like how they're giving feedback to people, and companies should be building stuff out to gather more positive feedback like that. This probably wouldn't have helped in this case for us because it just got posted somewhere, but it's just something I think to think about. I feel like part of me, when I saw the post go up, I was kind of like, there's this quote out there, and I forget the exact quote, but it's like the gist of it is pretty much like if you're not doing it, like if you're not in the shoes of that person, then like you can't really comment on like the things that they do because you don't understand. Like I don't know how big a lot of those businesses and some of those people who commented built. Maybe some of them are bigger than ours or whatever. Like do great work too. That's awesome. Like okay, like I'd love to hear your feedback. But like if you're running like a tiny little business, like you're not really at my scale. So like part of me was kind of like come back and talk to me like when you're ready. Like again, I don't know any of those commenters honestly, so I don't know if that's the case, but that was my initial kind of like upset thought, right? And I think it's important. You were talking earlier, Christy, about like not even allowing this into your time or into your like the time you spend. And to a point, I for sure agree with that. Like I 90% agree with that because I like almost never read the comments. I never like I don't know. I just keep going, and I know it's good. I know it's not good. I like it's fine, and this is not even that big of a deal. But when I posted my reply to this, and it was like a pretty long reply, and I got a bunch of like, oh, this is a really good reply. Like, thank you for posting this. But the one that stuck out to me was someone who said, okay, this is exactly what they said. I'm reading verbatim. Good response. I'm sure this wasn't pleasant to come across. I tend to use a lot of emojis to support my point intention at times. I also refrain from posting, commenting, and heck, building our email list more because of the fear of responses sort of like this. I'm self-conscious in real life and online too, I guess. And that was the reply that someone said to me. So I usually don't read the comments. I usually don't really care about stuff like this. But when I do care about stuff like this, it's because it was in a public enough forum that a lot of people were seeing it and commenting on it. And I think it's important for me to reply to something like that, or someone from WPMRR to reply to something like that and stand up to that kind of behavior because there are 50 other people in that Facebook group that think the same as that commenter did. Like I get nervous about that stuff. Like, and seeing us stand up to folks when we're like, that's bullshit. Like, come on, like that, what the fuck? That gives them power to be able to do the same thing. So I think there's power in like in bringing in calling people out on stuff like this, especially when it's not just my emotions. And like if it was just me, I'd be like, whatever. I literally wouldn't have replied. But to me, there's importance of like as a community, we have to stand up to this stuff. And if one person does it, it empowers 100 other people to do it. And so hopefully some other people saw my reply. I got like 20 or something like reactions and thumbs up to my reply. So I think it got positive response, and I got a lot of, the person who DM'd me was like, I don't agree with this opinion. Like, I think your emojis are great, but obviously it's,
I think
people
your
are,
emojis are great, by the
everyone.
way.
Thank you. Thank you. A lot of people like them. We actually get replies from a lot of emails like, I love your emojis. Thank you. And I actually got the idea from Amada Wace. He uses a lot of emojis in his writing,
Yeah, yeah.
probably better than we do, but it's like really interactive and fun. And so I was like, oh, we want to do that. So um, anyway, those are some of my thoughts. And yeah, that's all.
I think
Keep being thoughtful about what you're posting online. I think before you just pile on, what do you really think? What do you don't just post what everyone else is posting. It's important not to get carried away, which definitely what happened in this post.
tying the last knot with the diversity knot, right? I think that we hear a lot of stories about women who receive this higher concentration of negative attention online that they just give up.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know, that sucks. That's so terrible, right? And there's a lot of power, yeah, in saying, hey, maybe focus your attention on the things you love and not the things you hate, and we'd get a more positive, diverse, uh, productive, ecosystem all across the board, um, where not only the fittest and loudest
Yeah,
women can survive because any others will just get sunk, that's
yeah,
not fair.
totally. And I think there's also something to be said about like proper moderation online. Um, like part of my comment on that thread was like, here, I'll just read like that section of it because I think it pertains to kind of what you were saying, which was, let's see it. Okay. This group has rules. And I said, like, I read through the group rules, and 6A says be kind to each other, which seems pretty straightforward. I think this started out pretty lighthearted, meaning like this post. I think it started pretty lighthearted, but there were a few commenters here who probably towed the line. So I won't read all that, but I wanted to read that because I think that like you have to set up a community with intent, and you can't just like forget that intent once like it grows and it's like, I don't know, becoming success. Like it's like 3,000 people in this group, cool. Like you like then it's even more important to remember your group rules. And I think that to like what you were saying, like we need to protect each other. And a group of people, like when you put a bunch of people together, like things get crazy. Like that's just kind of human nature, right? It's like if you put 3,000 of any kind of people together, like woo, like 3,000 people, let's party, right? But like that's the job of the moderator to moderate your community. And I should probably say like this is the only experience I've had with this community, right? It's probably a great community. Like I have no reason to believe that like at scale, if you look at 100 posts, like it's great. I just had one bad experience. So I would never say like this is not a good community or anything like that. I think it's probably a good one. Everything I've seen has been good. I just had one bad experience. But that's important. You as communities grow, moderators and the leaders of those communities have even more responsibility to protect women, to protect companies, to protect people and their emotional integrity. And I think that's just it's something I think is important for everybody as they're growing a community to think about from day one, because it's always going to be more and more important as the community grows. It only gets more important.
And I think the interesting note there, right, is you might not think that you're protecting women by protecting men from negative attention, but you are, because if you say something about that, you're preventing three other pieces of feedback that maybe are more private or more subtle. Because if you don't get away with one thing, you don't get away with seven things, right? And so I think that's an important consideration. I think a lot of people are watching, more people than we realize, right? Like how much stuff do you lurk on a daily basis? I lurk a lot of stuff on a daily
Most
basis.
users are lurkers in most
I am
most
such a
things.
lurker, just all over the place.
Me too. Yeah, I'm not on social that much, but when I am, it's usually because I'm just seeing what's going on.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's our note on haters.
That's a lot on haters. I think a lot of your advice is really good though. Like staying positive, surrounding yourself with positive people. We'll tell you, both of us from companies that are at, we're at like a bigger scale than your average small business, and obviously Liquid Web Nexcess is like a pretty big scale. Um, you're As you grow, you're going to receive like more haters. You're going to have more trolls, you're going to have more haters, you're going to have more people asking you for backlinks to their web. Like it's all going to increase. And surrounding yourself purposefully with like positive people is really important. It's actually like probably one of my joys of doing this podcast, Christy. Like I love doing the podcast. It's great, but like that's also an excuse to talk to every week. Like it makes my week better to like get to chat for an hour. Like that's really nice. Yeah. Hey, we're friends. And so keep doing that. Be diligent about like, you know, the team you're putting together has to be people that are going to bring positivity. Like the people in the WordPress space you interact with. Most people in the WordPress space are great. There are a few people who I don't really care for very much, or who I wouldn't have to care for. I'm not going
Name
to lie.
names. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Who are they? That's okay. Maybe we're just, well, some people I don't like, probably just because they're easily unlikable. But there are probably also people I don't care for very much, just because we just don't see eye to eye, and that's fine. I would like people see differently than me. That's fine. That's good. They want to run businesses differently than me. No problem. Do your thing. But it's just not my cup of tea. But let those people go. It's okay. You don't need them to do well. You need to surround yourself with good people, and as you move forward, it'll keep you moving forward as opposed to trying to get stuck somewhere. So I think from what you said, that's what best way to fight against negative. When negative does happen, it can you can focus on it. But if you have a lot of positivity around you, that can outshine some of that shadow, I guess.
I think I'm a very positive person, but I take positivity in a very realistic way, if that makes any sense. I love positivity, but I am very comfortable saying that sometimes things just suck. They just suck and they're bad, and there's no reason why they are other than just sometimes things are bad. And so that's sort of like the positivity, but also not engaging in like a toxic sort of positivity that forces you to be positive all the
Yeah.
time. So I'm a big fan of alternate thoughts that can help frame a situation in a way that's just easier to accept that it sucks and that it's just kind of terrible and it's going to be terrible
Mm.
and move on. And when it came to a lot of the Caldera forums type stories, that I have so many we could do a whole other episode on, right? Eventually, I sort of developed this motto, I guess, that was just like, but isn't it so cool that we're big enough for this to happen?
I think that's important to think about. No, I
No.
mean you're right, because it's
Yep.
like it's almost
Yep.
like we've had instances where like we found people like duplicated our whole website.
Oh yeah.
Like they literally took our site, like duplicated it somewhere and tried to like sell care, and it was like, okay, like that's literally our website. Like I get you like wanting to do this, but like that's not cool. And it's not great, but it's also a sense of like, well, someone wanted to do that. Like you're obviously doing something right because someone wanted to. So trying to think about it positively is good. And so I think about the same thing, honestly, as this like post on the Facebook group. It's like, hey, we if we're out there, if 90% of the stuff is good and 10% is bad, like that's sometimes how it is. And the fact that just we're out there is probably something I should take positively and keep trying to improve. That's all we're trying to
Yeah.
do, right? Get a little better every day. So
And you can take
cool.
that positive thought with the primarily negative ones, right? Like, I think that's the important
Yeah,
thing to
definitely.
me. I think it's very dismissive, especially for women receiving abuse online, to be like, oh, but think about it positively. Like, no, don't think about it positively. It's stupid. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And also, isn't it kind of cool that you're big enough for this to happen? Isn't it kind of cool that people think your 7-person company is so large that they could send this kind of abuse and that it would just get filtered through the abuse filter and not go directly to the owner? Aren't you doing something right? And also, this sucks, it's inappropriate, and should stop. And also, here's just an alternate thought to get you through this kind of blech situation. And I think
Yeah,
that kind of strategy is super important for just being okay and being a
totally.
healthy human.
Agreed. And I think, yeah, to wrap up, I would just urge people, if you have like something you don't like about someone's company or something that you just don't think is that great,
And send it to us instead.
well,
Yo at
yeah, we'll
WPMRR.com.
post it in our
We'll
we'll
read
post it in
it.
our Facebook
We'll read
group
it.
and we'll hate on those people.
You
Yeah.
hate this plugin? Don't leave a bad
Um,
review. Just send us how much you hate
right.
this plugin in an email.
Totally. I like honestly, I love feedback. Even if it's negative, like I want to hear it. And if someone like had the respect to like come up to me and say like, "Hey, this email is way too many emojis," I might not agree with them, but I would really appreciate like someone who had like the balls to come up and say something to me about that. Like I don't feel like I'm like a big mean guy online. Like I'm gonna hate on someone for like coming to me with some negative feedback or something I didn't like. Just present it respectfully and like we could be friends. Like that would like I like getting feedback personally, and I think a lot of business owners think like that. So if you're thinking about like this thing's not that great, like well, okay, this company is not perfect. No company is, and they probably want to get better. So like, help them to get better by like, hey, send them a screenshot on the intercom chat, or like email their support saying like, hey, just saw this. Like, we get some people email like grammar mistakes on our blog, and we're like, oh, we didn't mean to do that. Thank you. Like, get 25% off. Some like merch and stuff. Like, two people commented like very positively on the emojis in the group, and I in my comment I said like we're gonna give you some free merch. Thank you for being like bufftastic and like not getting drawn into like craziness. So we sent those people some free. We'll send those people some free swag. So I would urge everyone to try and be positive and talk with companies about this. Help them get better. That's the only way they're gonna get better if they get the feedback and don't feel shitty because someone said something bad about them. So all right, that's good for today. We've been going for an hour. This is a good episode.
We did several topics in one. That was kind of fun.
Yeah. What are we going to title this episode? I have to figure that out. Cool. All right. If people want to go back and listen to some old episodes, you can do that. 100 plus episodes. This is like 100. This will be 100, 607 or something. So lots of old content. People can go back and binge. That's great. How about questions, Christy? Where should people shoot questions?
If you have questions, you can send them to us at yo@wpmrr.com. I love doing Q&A episodes, so please make me happy and send me questions.
They are fun. We'll do more Q&A. And now we can do tweet. We can do tweet analyses as well. So that's fun too. Cool. Oh, and you can also listen to the podcast on YouTube. We're publishing all future episodes there as well. So go give us. We need some listens and subscribers. Because we don't have that many yet because it's a new channel. So if you want to go and add a new subscriber, that'd be cool. WPMRR.com. If you want to check out the summit, it's going to be dope. You heard a pre-roll for it on this episode, so you already know about it. But go register. It's free. It's going to be awesome. Christy's going to talk. What else do you need to know? That's all. It's just Christy talking 15 times.
Just me on all the different topics.
ChristieMRR.com.
If you would attend the conference, it was just me talking for 15 sessions. Tell me at yo@WPMRR.com.
There you go. We would love that. Tweet at Christy. Nothing negative, only positive. That sounds great. We'll be in your podcast players again next Tuesday. Thanks for listening. All right. See you, Christy.
Bye.